Ladies and gentlemen, there's a moment, maybe you've lived it, when the walls of life collapse around you. When everything you've known, everything you've depended on, everything you believed was you, vanishes. Loss of health, collapse of a relationship, financial devastation, the silence after a dream dies, and in that silence you ask, "What now?" Let me tell you, that moment is not the end. That moment is where the miracle begins. Because when everything familiar is stripped away, you are left with only one thing, the present moment, the infinite, fertile now. And in that now, if you become still enough, something extraordinary begins to stir. You see, when we have nothing left, the ego finally quiets. The programs, the identities, the roles, they fall, and what emerges is the divine intelligence within you. Some call it God, some call it the quantum field. Some call it source. Names don't matter, the presence does. This isn't the God of distant places. This is the intelligence that breathes through every cell in your body, that spins galaxies into being, that orchestrates healing without your permission, that turns pain into purpose, ashes into beauty. But here's the key: you must become aligned with that intelligence. You must think like the future you, feel as if the miracle is already done, and believe with the certainty of a child seeing the sunrise for the first time. You must emotionally step out of the past and neurologically step into the future. That is where the restoration begins. Now, science tells us our thoughts have energy. Our feelings produce chemistry. When we are locked in grief, fear, shame, our body records it, memorizes it, becomes addicted to it. And if we're not careful, we recreate the past over and over again, like a song on repeat. But what happens when you say, "I will not be defined by what I lost, I will be defined by what I choose to become"? Something shifts, new circuits fire in the brain, new emotions begin to flood the body, the heart opens, and suddenly, what was broken starts to regenerate, first invisibly, internally, and then visibly, externally. Restoration is not simply returning to what was. Restoration is a higher order of being, a new level of coherence between your heart, your mind, and the divine. It's the miracle that unfolds after the ruin, not before it. You are not a victim of fate. You are a creator in the field of infinite potential. So I invite you, if everything is gone, perfect, the canvas is clean, now tune into the vision of who you are becoming. Speak to God not with your words, but with your frequency. Show your belief not with your mouth, but with your nervous system. Feel gratitude before the restoration arrives, because in the quantum, it already has. And if you can hold that vibration even in the dark, the light will come, the healing will come, the relationship, the renewal, the breakthrough. They will come, not because you begged, but because you aligned. That is the miracle of restoration. When everything is taken from us, whether it's the security of a job, the presence of a loved one, the stability of our health, or the identity we've clung to, there is a profound, often painful emptiness left behind. That emptiness is not just absence, it is potential. Most of us fear the moment of loss because it disrupts the known, the predictable patterns we use to define who we are. But hidden within that disruption is the most powerful opportunity for change. When all structures fall, the human being is forced to confront themselves without distraction. No more hiding behind titles, roles, possessions, or routines. The illusion of control collapses. And in that void, a quiet truth emerges. Transformation only truly begins when there's nothing left to hold onto. This is the sacred ground of renewal. It's not comfortable, and it's rarely invited. But neurologically and energetically, this is where we become most plastic, most able to be rewired, restructured, and reborn. In neuroscience, we understand that the brain thrives on pattern recognition. When patterns break, the brain scrambles, and in its scrambling, it becomes receptive to new input. Old habits, emotional addictions, and conditioned responses begin to weaken. The self that was built on routine and memory begins to fade, making space for something original, something inspired. In spiritual terms, this is the wilderness before the promised land, the emptiness before the voice of the divine can be heard clearly. When everything external is gone, All that remains is the internal compass, the raw awareness of being. And that awareness is where creation begins. We are closest to God, to Source, to the field of infinite potential, when we are emptied of all else. Because in that emptiness we become fully available to what wants to emerge. The present moment is not just a point in time, it is a dimension of consciousness. It's the space where your thoughts, emotions, body, and environment meet. Most people live in either the past replaying regrets, trauma, and identity, or the future, consumed by worry, control, and imagined outcomes. But the present moment is where everything actually happens. It's the only place where change can occur, healing can begin, and miracles can manifest. When you bring your full awareness into the now, you're stepping into alignment with the intelligence that creates all things. That intelligence doesn't operate in linear time. It exists beyond it. So when you anchor yourself in the present, you're aligning with the frequency where the divine moves. From a biological standpoint, being present shifts the brain and body out of survival mode. The stress response, fight, flight, or freeze, is always based on memory or anticipation, but the present moment has no threat, no story, no resistance. It's simply asterisk is asterisk. When you're fully here, your brain waves begin to slow down, your heart rate stabilizes, and your body begins to move into coherence. You're no longer scattered across 100 timelines. You're collected, whole, and receptive. Energetically, the present moment is where intention gains power. When you combine focused thought with elevated emotion asterisk in the now asterisk, you begin to signal a new destiny to the quantum field. The field responds not to what you want, but to who you're being right now. That's why presence is not passive, it's creative. It's the brushstroke on the canvas of your future. It's where potential collapses into form. And the more you practice arriving fully here, the more you begin to unlock access to that divine intelligence that is always available, always responsive, always waiting for you to tune in when the ego dissolves. The soul begins to emerge. The ego is the construct we build to navigate the world. A personality built from memories, experiences, fears, and achievements. It's the voice that says, I am this, or I am not that. It defines itself through separation, comparison, and control. While it serves a functional purpose, it becomes a barrier when we seek transformation. The ego clings to certainty, to identity, to the known, and resists anything that threatens its structure. But loss, failure, crisis, these are the forces that crack the shell of the ego. And when that shell breaks, something deeper begins to surface. The soul doesn't speak in fear or control. It doesn't care about status or image. It doesn't defend, compare, or justify. It simply asterisk is asterisk. The soul is that unchanging awareness that watches the rise and fall of all things. It is the source of intuition, love, creativity, and healing. When we are no longer obsessed with preserving who we were, we begin to connect with who we truly are beneath the roles and stories. This is not a belief system, it's a shift in consciousness. From a neurological perspective, when egoic patterns lose their grip, the brain begins to rewire. New neural pathways open as old emotional signatures fade. The body becomes less reactive. We're no longer bound to the stress chemistry of defense and survival. Instead, we access higher states, compassion, connection, inner peace. This isn't passive, it's incredibly active. But the activity comes from alignment, not force. It comes from resonance, not resistance. In this space, we stop seeking power outside of ourselves and begin to feel the power within. The more the ego quiets, the more clearly the soul can guide. The more we let go of who we think we should be, the more space we create for who we were designed to become. Restoration begins when identity is no longer tied to the past. Most people unconsciously define themselves by their history, by what happened to them, what they've achieved, what they've lost, or who they've been told they are. These memories become patterns in the brain, emotional habits in the body, and ultimately, a personality that plays out the same story over and over again. When someone says, "That's just how I am," what they're really saying is, "That's who I've memorized myself to be." But true restoration, true transformation, can't happen until we begin to release the emotional weight of that narrative. When identity is built on wounds, betrayals, and disappointments, the nervous system remains locked in survival mode. The body keeps reliving the past even when the environment has changed. Thoughts become predictable, feelings become familiar, and behavior becomes automatic. To restore your life, you must be willing to let go of who you think you are. You must be willing to become unknown to yourself. That's where the opening begins. From a neuroscientific standpoint, changing identity means changing the wiring of the brain and the chemistry of the body. Every time you choose a new thought that doesn't match the old emotion, you interrupt the pattern. Every time you act from the vision of your future instead of the memory of your past, you fire new circuits. The more consistently you do this, the more you biologically shift out of who you were and into who you're becoming. Emotionally, this can feel like dying, because a version of you is dying. But it's in that shedding, in that surrender, that restoration begins to take form. When you stop anchoring your identity to what has been, you create space for what can be. You begin to align with the blueprint of your highest self. Thoughts send the signal, emotions draw the experience. This principle is at the heart of how we interact with the invisible forces that shape reality. Every thought we think is a form of electrical energy, a signal sent out into the field of possibility. That signal carries information, direction, intention. But thoughts alone are not enough to create change. Emotion is what gives the thought life. It is the magnetic charge that pulls the experience toward us. Without feeling, a thought is just potential. With feeling, it becomes power. When a person holds a clear intention in the mind while embodying an elevated emotion in the body, gratitude, love, joy, inspiration, they begin to align with the frequency of their desired future. This is not wishful thinking, it is a process of energetic coherence. The brain and heart begin to operate in harmony, sending synchronized messages through the nervous system and into the field. The body stops reacting to the past and starts responding to a new vision of the future. Over time, this alignment begins to influence not only the individual's internal state, but also the external circumstances they encounter. On the other hand, if thoughts are focused on lack, fear, or doubt, and those thoughts are paired with stress-based emotions, the signal sent is incoherent. The field mirrors back more of what's being projected, more fear, more resistance, more of the same. The mind may want change, but the body is broadcasting a different message. Restoration, therefore, requires emotional congruence with the vision. You must feel the future as if it's already real. This is how the language of creation works. Thought sets the intention, emotion confirms the signal. When both are aligned, reality begins to bend, and life starts reflecting the signal you consistently emit. You must feel the miracle before it appears. This is one of the most profound principles of transformation, and also one of the most difficult to embody. Most people are conditioned to wait for external circumstances to change before they allow themselves to feel different. They say, "I'll feel joy when I heal," or "I'll be grateful when I receive the breakthrough." But this mindset keeps them anchored in waiting, not creating. The field that responds to who you are doesn't speak the language of hope or desperation. It speaks the language of frequency, of embodied truth. When you emotionally experience your future as if it's already here, you signal to your body and your brain that the change has already occurred. This creates a shift in your biology. The body, which has memorized the emotions of the past, begins to recondition itself to a new reality. It starts to believe something new is happening, even if the outer world hasn't changed yet. And when that belief is repeated and sustained, it becomes a new state of being. In that state, you are no longer trying to make something happen. You are living as though it already has. Neurologically, the brain does not distinguish between a real experience and an intensely imagined one, especially when it's accompanied by strong emotion. This is why visualization combined with elevated feeling is so powerful. It creates new neural networks, new chemical signatures, and new behavioral patterns. The more you practice this emotional rehearsal, the more natural it becomes to live from the future instead of reacting from the past. The miracle begins to take shape in the invisible before it appears in the visible. Feeling it now is the act of faith that opens the gateway. It's the alignment that invites the unseen into form. Your body must believe what your mind envisions. Transformation isn't just a mental concept, it's a full body experience. The mind can dream of change, speak affirmations, and visualize new outcomes. But if the body remains conditioned to the past, real change will never take hold. This is because the body is the subconscious mind. It stores emotional patterns, habits, and memories that often run on autopilot. Even when consciously we say we want something different. To truly step into a new reality, the body must begin to feel as if the future is already happening now. When your mind creates a vision and your body still feels anxiety, shame, or unworthiness, there's an incoherence in your signal. You're asking for one thing while broadcasting another. But when the body starts to feel inspired, grateful, or empowered in response to a mental image of the future, coherence is created between thought and feeling. This is when real, measurable change begins. The nervous system calms, the brain begins to rewire, and the chemistry of transformation floods the cells. This is not about pretending or forcing. It's about retraining the body to no longer live in the hormones of the past. Every time you interrupt an old emotional response, like fear or anger, and instead choose a feeling aligned with your vision, you're breaking a habit of being yourself. You're reconditioning the body to believe in the unseen. The more the body feels this new state of being, the more familiar it becomes. Eventually, it stops resisting the future and begins trusting it. This is when the inner reality begins to become more real than the outer one. The body is no longer the anchor to the old story. It becomes the vessel through which the new story takes shape and moves into physical reality. Gratitude is the signature of answered prayer. It is not just a positive emotion. It is a powerful state of consciousness that signals completion to the body and the field. When you feel gratitude before anything changes in your external reality, you are demonstrating a deep, energetic alignment with your desired future. You are showing that you already trust it has happened, that you believe in the unseen, and that you've shifted into a reality where the outcome is inevitable. This state of being becomes a declaration. I am no longer waiting for the miracle. I am already living in the vibration of its arrival. Gratitude changes the chemistry of the body. It elevates your emotional state, reduces stress hormones, boosts immune function, and creates coherence between the heart and brain. This coherence sends a strong, harmonious signal into the field. You are no longer fragmented by doubt, fear, or longing. You are unified in belief. You are feeling the emotions of your future as if they're already real, and that emotional energy draws experiences that match it. The field doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are being. And when you are being gratitude, you are signaling it is done. Gratitude also rewires the brain. Neural circuits begin to form around the new reality. You start seeing evidence of possibility where before there was none. You begin to notice opportunities, synchronicities, and connections that align with your vision. Gratitude sharpens your awareness and anchors you in the present, which is where all change begins. It is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, the internal and the external. When you live in a state of gratitude, you are not trying to create. You are recognizing that creation has already occurred in the quantum, and your only job is to align with it. Alignment with the divine creates coherence and healing. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are in harmony with the intelligence that flows through all things, you enter a state of coherence. unified field where body, mind, and spirit operate as one. This coherence is not simply a feeling of peace or calm. It is a measurable physiological state where the heart and brain rhythms synchronize, the nervous system calms, and the body moves into a healing mode. In this state, your cells begin to communicate more effectively, your immune system strengthens, and your capacity to regenerate increases. The divine intelligence is not separate from you. It is the source within you, the creative energy that animates life. When you align with it, you stop resisting what is and begin cooperating with what can be. This alignment dissolves inner conflict and releases resistance, which often manifests as stress, anxiety, or illness. Instead, you cultivate trust, surrender, and openness to the flow of life. This doesn't mean passivity. It means actively choosing to resonate with a higher frequency, a greater possibility. Spiritually, this coherence allows you to access intuition, inner guidance, and profound clarity. You begin to see beyond the surface of circumstances and recognize the interconnectedness of all things. You feel supported by a presence greater than yourself and develop the courage to step into your highest potential. Energetically, this state shifts your vibration so that you no longer attract challenges from a place of fear or lack, but invite solutions, opportunities, and miracles. Healing, therefore, is not just about fixing what's broken. It's about restoring the natural coherence that exists when you are aligned with the divine flow. This alignment creates a resonance that permeates every aspect of your being, inviting restoration on all levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Restoration is not return, it's rebirth. When we think about healing or recovery, we often imagine going back to a previous state, a time before loss, pain, or struggle. But true restoration transcends the idea of simply returning to what once was. It is a fundamental transformation that creates something entirely new, something greater than before. This rebirth requires letting go of old identities, limiting beliefs, and familiar patterns that no longer serve us. It is a shedding of the past that opens the door to a fresh way of being. In this process, the self that emerges is not just repaired. It is renewed with greater wisdom, resilience, and clarity. Restoration in this sense is a creative act. It involves stepping into unknown territory and embracing the uncertainty that comes with growth. It means surrendering the comfort of familiarity in exchange for the possibility of something better. This is where the miracle unfolds, not in the return to a previous condition, but in the emergence of a new reality. Biologically, rebirth happens when new neural pathways form and old emotional imprints dissolve. The body and brain adapt to new ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving. This is why the process can feel like a death and a resurrection, a profound rewiring at the deepest levels of our being. Emotionally, it requires courage to face the discomfort of change and to hold faith in the unseen future. Spiritually, it invites us to connect with a higher power or intelligence that supports our evolution. This transformation is not linear or predictable. It often involves setbacks, challenges, and moments of doubt, but each step forward is part of the rebirth process, a gradual unfolding of your highest potential. Restoration, then, is a dynamic journey of becoming, where the past serves as a foundation but does not define the future.